Yo, what is going on, everybody? This your boy Sean, aka Puff Comics 83, and surprise, surprise, we are here on a Saturday. It's Saturday at 11 a.m. my time. What time is it on your side, BB?
5 p.m.
5 p.m. his time. So,
And yet I'm more tired than when we do the show usually at 10 because I didn't sleep all night. I was traveling all day with the train, and I think I just had time to sleep 1 hour at home, and yeah.
wow.
But hey, we're here to pull double duty today.
Yes. Unfortunately, I was under the weather last week, so we couldn't do this stream last Thursday. And you was, of course, traveling out of town, so we couldn't do the show yesterday. So double duty it is today. We're going to do our Carl Weathers tribute show. And then right after that, we're going to head into Lola Cult, starring the beautiful Lola Falana.
Yeah.
But, amazing. We're going to start off, talking about a man that when it was announced that he passed away on February 2nd, it was gut punching.
That one hit really hard.
And, me and Jace was fortunate to meet him last year at MegaCon. And I tell you, the man was so full of spirit. He was so great with his fans, even for the short time that we was able to be around him. He saw we wanted to do the Rocky pose, and he was like, "Oh, y'all want to do boxing?" And we did the boxing pose, and he was just a joy to get for the little time we had with him. And he was in such good spirits. He was coming off the Mandalorian, and everybody came in a variety of ways, whether Star Wars, whether Rocky. You even had Action Jackson cosplayer, had the red shirt on and everything. So, it was just a blessing to get a chance to stand next to greatness and shake his hand. And, a year later, when he passed, it was like, man, he was in his 70s, but he still looked youthful. He still had that energy with him. Like this man still looked like he can step in the ring and have a rematch with Rocky after all these years.
Exactly. And 70, this age, 70, it doesn't feel like the 70 from a few decades ago anymore.
Yeah.
So it's
G-Man.
Hey, G-Man. But hey, he was a grandfather, so he truly had a blessed life. And as we know him as action star, we know him as a fantastic comedian. But the first thing I always think about Carl Weathers is he was, back in the day when I still had a Twitter account, he was one of the only good things on Twitter, because he was always positive. He also reacted to fans. And the thing I always think about him is like how he signed every tweet with BPs. And this was like not only something that he wrote out there like as a catchphrase. No, this was something that he, at least online, how I saw it every day, he truly lived. Everything doesn't matter if it was like entertainment, social issues, or whatever. He approached everything with a clear head and with a peaceful aim, like an aim to bring people together and not push them apart. And he was a positive human being, and he's truly missed.
And you never heard anything bad about him. He always, maintained a good image for himself. He never, probably like the only controversial thing was that he still wanted to be Apollo Creed even after the character died, and Stallone was like, "You're dead. You can't come back." But you know that was like the only thing that like he was still passionate about. Like he wanted to still be Apollo Creed. Like even do like maybe flashback scenes or something like that. Like he still embodied the character. And we've talked about it in the Rocky streams about how Stallone regretted, you know, doing what he did to the character because
Yeah.
you know, when you look back at those movies, it's like, man, Apollo Creed was such an intriguing character, you know. Like he wasn't your typical boisterous, you know, want to beat you up and just take you out. Like he was boisterous, but at the same time, like he was prideful. And there was a lot of traits in him that's in all of us. Like, of course, you're gonna have, you know, a strong pride about yourself that you're the greatest, you know. And you know, when you watch those films, you start to become more and more sympathetic and admiring of Apollo's character.
Absolutely, you know? And especially since he was like, as we talked in the pre-show, that some people say it was just like Muhammad Ali knockoff. Like absolutely no, he made the character his own. He giving like personality, and he made it more than just be like an adversary to Rocky.
An adversary that became a friend. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was like you said, like he was smart, he was prideful, like he was a very calculating businessman.
Yeah, and you know. When we talk those Rocky movies, like Apollo's character was such an endearing character to us that, you know, Rocky 4 was like the biggest gut punch. It's like I can't even watch that movie the same because of how he went out. But again, that was the strength of the character. He wanted to go out his way.
Yeah,
you know, he didn't want the towel being thrown.
Yeah, and in the long run, it was his name and his legacy that gave birth to the Creed movies.
Yeah.
The Creed movies would have been a way tougher sell if it was not like for the name Creed. Like everybody like saw this Creed, absolutely makes sense. Legacy of Apollo, we're all buying it.
Yeah. You know, while we can always fantasize about whether, you know, if Apollo was still around for the Creed movies, but for what we got, I thought they still did a respectable job in making sure the Creed name was just as valuable as the Rocky's name.
Yeah, it's like his presence was felt even though he wasn't there.
Yeah. and that's the thing, like those movies really like made the Creed name such a important name in all the films, to the point where every time you go back and watch him, he's like, the more and more you like, man, I just love Apollo Creed. You know, I wish like we would have gotten a spinoff with him before Rocky 4. You know, just to show more of his character traits, his relationship with Tony. You know,
could have been also like the prequel, like how he got to the top. Like would have been interesting for sure. Yeah, but all like I said, like there's adversary turned friend to Rocky. This is like a trait that, you know, being just a likable and very sympathetic human being that Carl Weathers was. Their Alien Fury, fantastic channel, did a fantastic video about of course his character Dylan in Predator, and also he made a very interesting comparison why we all love Dylan and why we hate Burke, you know, from Aliens, and because both had like ulterior motives and were villains in the beginning. But the thing is, of course, that Dylan redeems himself within the story. And how else could you do? Because it's just impossible to be mad at Carl Weathers. So I'm pretty sure they had to do it like this.
For Carl Weathers to be a part of Predator in the most iconic scene of all time,
the handshake that yeah.
I mean, bitch. That scene is just so fucking classic. Like every time we see each other, we got to do that. You know, that was like the bro code growing up as kids. Like, we got to do the Arnold and you know, and then we try to test the strength of each other. You know, like it's
pushing too many pencils.
It's the most iconic scene in movie history. Just that alone.
Yeah, that like the moment that this handshake took place sold the whole Predator movie.
The fucking universe exploded, man.
Yeah. Like that.
Like men, like children became men while watching that.
Yeah.
It's just that is the lost art of manhood. You know, where you see something like that and you instantly like, man, I can't wait to become a man. I'm gonna have muscles. I'm like the whole milk does a body good. You go from boy to man, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna drink milk, I'm gonna work out, and I'm gonna exercise, and I'm gonna be just like those two.
And Tiernan fought hard to get Carl Weathers in there because he wanted somebody in there who has the body and who can act.
Yes, and who has a wealth of charisma.
Yes, and perfect choice. Without Carl Weathers, Predator would have been a different movie. Would have still been awesome action film, but nowhere the gold standard of action movies that it is.
Yeah, like Predator. So many times I watched that film as a kid, and it's like the death that impacts me the most was his, because it was this long, drawn out death. And it was probably the most extensive death scene that we've seen up until that point.
Yeah.
And it's like, even in Carl Weathers standards, he like, I'm gonna have the best death scene in this whole movie.
Yeah. But you know what was his most challenging and like most glorious deed that he ever did?
Gave us Action Jackson.
There's also close, but he got Hulk Hogan as an actor over. Yeah. Something nobody else was able to do. But the Shadow Island movies.
Well, Tiny Listener did put him over.
Yeah, but not as an actor. Yeah.
Go ahead.
But in the Shadow Island movies, without all of these movies, without Carl Weathers, they would have been entertaining. Like they would get a lot of laughs, but he made it like two action B-movie classics, and added the much-needed gravitas.
I will say, Carl Weathers is most definitely needed in those films because his charisma was so strong, and Hulk Hogan was trying too hard to act instead of being charismatic like Hulk Hogan is.
Yeah.
And sometimes his character is wooden as hell, but he plays off well with Carl Weathers. Like, take Carl Weathers out the equation, it would have been a disaster.
Yes, it would be just Hogan being stiff. It would have just been what is the movie? The Commando ripoff, Lethal Weapon. The Lethal Weapon. It would have just done that because it's also done by the same director as the Shadow Island movies, and you can truly see that somebody like him is missing in that one, while in the Shadow Island movie, I love these movies. Like we already did a stream about it in the past, about all the Hogan movies, and who hasn't watched the Shadow Island movies, like Attack on Shadow Island, Devil's Island. Yeah, they have like so many different titles. These movies. Just look for Hulk Hogan and Carl Weathers. Both are in both movies, and these are just forgotten classics that, in my opinion, like in the Olymp of straight-to-video action movies.
It also helps to have Martin Cove and Shannon Tweed in there, the balance.
Yeah, for sure too.
But Carl Weathers was like the brains of the team. He focused on the finances and all that. So like, he was awesome in those films, and it's like, you know, as much crap as I give Hogan, you know,
a lot of
like for, and I forgot if he said something, but I know like they had some great banter in those films, and it's like, yeah, they would have made a great tag team if they were wrestling.
Yeah.
But yeah, Carl Weathers was just awesome in those two films, and again, like even the TV series that he did, Street Justice. You know, I watched a couple episodes of that, and it's like, man, it's a shame that this show didn't really take off, because it was entertaining as a, you know, straight to TV cop show, and you know, it was of the standard fare of the '90s stuff. But Carl Weathers, like he made it his own, you know, and so he took that role and just put his all into it.
I think it also really shows, first of all, you know, now looking back, we were spoiled in the 80s and 90s with awesome films, a big remake, with awesome films and awesome series. And this truly shows that it makes a lot of difference whether a studio or a TV pushes you in marketing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like,
because I also think Action Jackson would have been a way bigger success if they would have put more money behind it in marketing. And when you look back, you know, nowadays we are happy to get like 3 good movies a year in cinemas. You know, back in the day, like 80s and 90s, I remember going to the cinemas, especially in the 90s when I was teenager, was going to the cinemas like every weekend, because there was always something that you can't miss.
It was always a new movie, whether it was a big budget film or a low budget film that was coming out that you're like, man, you know what, I want to go see that.
Hey, Gary.
And Carl Weathers was a part of that, you know.
Yeah.
You know, whether it was the small screen TV or the big screen, like his roles in Happy Gilmore. You know, Adam Sandler picked him to be, you know, Chubbs, and he embodied that role so good that he made a reappearance in Little Nicky.
Yeah, and it's especially, you know, when he really discovered like how funny he was, like how he had a fantastic timing for comedy, and especially you were talked also about it before. Like one of my favorite roles is him as himself in Arrested Development.
It's like, man, imagine if we had gotten more of that Carl Weathers, like during that time period, like his balancing of action and comedy and drama. Like Carl Weathers can be a great drama actor as well. You know, so if we would have gotten a lot of that during the 90s, like he probably would be up there. You know, like imagine a movie with him and Wesley Snipes when Wesley Snipes was at the peak of his career.
Would have been fantastic.
Yeah, it would have been awesome. You know, I felt like studios just passed up on having him in more roles that could have benefited movies.
Absolutely, and sadly, a lot of fantastic black actors didn't get the push in the 80s and 90s that truly deserved. The same with Bill Duke. Like, I mean, he's like, he can do everything: direct, write, act, and looking menacing, like being like the giant that he is. It really
deserves his flowers while he's still alive, man.
Yeah.
Bill Duke is one of those so versatile. He can be in any role, but yet still has a presence, no matter how small that role is. And him being with Carl Weathers and Predator and Action Jackson, it's like, man, you know.
And Bill Duke's so humble, you know. When I was working at the Schwarzenegger Museum back in the day, and he brought us a book, so I was just writing him, hey, you want to send us your book and we can put it in a museum? And he was so nice and so humble. Like, he treated me like I was an equal. like, and I was just fanboying, like writing, like.
That's awesome, man, and that's what you see from Carl Weathers. Like, he was so humble with his fans that he treats everybody equal. Like, he's never above or just like ego driven actor. He's always humble and he's always great with his fans. And you describing Bill Duke like that is always a great experience, because sometimes there are actors and celebrities that are just come off as snobbish and egotistical sometimes. That
a lot of dicks in the business.
Yeah, it just like throws you off, and it's like, man, how can I be a fan of this guy when he was a dick? So it's always great to be respectful.
Yeah.
One of the people that admire your work.
One of my favorite interviews of Carl Weathers was the one they did when they did the making of Predator, where half of the documentary is about Jesse Ventura and Arnold having dick measuring contests, and then it's like you got the Carl Weathers interview where it's just like, him being the voice of reason, like so many crazy guys, so many egos he has, and him being like he's just. He has all the reasons in the world to have a big ego, but he doesn't.
And he's worked with some big names, F Hunt, with Charles Bronson and Lee Marvin. I mean, you talk about titans of manly films. Lee Marvin, like I always saw him as like the king of like military films, because every movie I've watched of his he was a military leader. The Big Red One, Delta Force, and all that. He has a lot of great other roles as well. But Carl Weathers being in the movie with Lee Marvin and Charles Bronson, in itself is like, man, you brush shoulders with greatness throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
I mean, like right straight in the beginning, when you get some cameos or small roles from Carl Weathers in the blaxploitation genre, which, of course, with Action Jackson, he's referencing like way later. We already talked the movie Bucktown, I think, last year, and also talked about, of course, like you have the Hammer on screen.
Both of them play for the Oakland Raiders in football, so they have that athletic background translated to acting.
Yeah, and you can, when you watch Bucktown, you can truly see that they like his role just back then, they like as a henchman basically in the movie. He still had that charisma. You were like, that guy has something.
Yeah, and him and Tony King.
Hey, John, thanks for joining.
John. Him and Tony King, that was probably the most dialogue he had in the whole movie. But yet you saw something there, in just that conversation. Like, this guy is onto something. Like, you could just see that he has the ability to become a star. And I always liked that Fred Williamson, whenever he talked about Carl Weathers and how Carl had that ambition to be like, hey, I'm gonna be just like you, because they both had that football background. They both played for the Oakland Raiders, so it was like, I want to be just like the Hammer, Except
humble.
Yeah, he was humble, way humble than the Hammer. But at the same time, he wanted to be just like him. And, when he got that opportunity to be in Rocky, that was his breakout moment. And
absolutely,
forever be immortalized in the history of Hollywood as Apollo Creed. So in a way, while Fred the Hammer Williamson is a legend, and he has that status, you could say that Carl Weathers has kind of like overtook him because of the iconic status that Apollo Creed has in Hollywood.
That, and also Carl Weathers way more diplomatic.
Yeah, and we just talked about
Chaps, and Arrested Development, one of my favorite sitcoms, straight after It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And I remember when I watched Arrested Development for the first time, and I was like, hey, Carl Weathers is in there. And when you look back, like you think it was only in 3 episodes, And when I think about the series, in my head it's in way more episodes, and this shows the impact his character, like the cheap version of himself, truly has in that series, and how great they played on it, especially also later when he's basically forcing himself into directing the movie about the blue about George Blue.
The 3 episodes he in felt like an entire film, and he just captured all of the glory there. It's like, man, you just want more of it, But that just shows you his humbleness. That he asked for the character to be cheap. He wanted to be himself and be this cheaper character, and just have these awesome lines. This is stew brewing and all that.
Yeah, so, like in his honor, I'm gonna travel back in time and get a stew going on with Liza Minnelli.
Man, so and that's why I said like his introduction into film with Bucktown and Friday Foster, both when you're in films with Fred the Hammer Williamson, Yaphet Kotto, Pam Grier, it's like, man, what better way to start than being in films with these actors and actresses, and to go where he started and to the end with Mandalorian. What up, who that? It just shows that he's a legend. New Orleans. It just shows just how much of an impact he made in his entire career. And the fans that he developed, and we all love Carl Weathers, man. That's why when it was announced that he passed, it was a gut punch to everybody.
Yeah. And sometimes you read when an actor passes and you're like, that sucks, that's a blow. But and it's like always, it's always the same thing, every time I'm getting a heart attack when I see something that I like, with a black and white picture. And really there was like almost like the time stood still, and it's like, this can't be true, because it was really out of the blue, like there was no known sickness. He looked fantastic. It was a shock, to say the least.
Yeah. And like we said, like there was no scandal. He was never part of no drama. There was nothing controversial about Carl Weathers.
Yeah.
Even
family man, father, grandfather, and
he always stayed on a low profile, and he took work when work came, and he never had no problems. That's the type of life you want to have. Especially in the day of Hollywood where there's scandals all over the place.
Yeah.
And celebrities having all these issues left and right. Carl Weathers, like, that's not for me. I'm just gonna show up, I'm gonna do my job, I'm gonna be as positive as I can, and I'm gonna go to the next job.
And then like also nowadays, in a time where everybody wants to fight with everybody, I've never ever heard a person say a bad thing about Carl Weathers.
No.
It doesn't matter, like it doesn't matter like where you're from, what's your opinion, etc. Everybody loved Carl Weathers.
Everybody. And when he passed, everybody had heartfelt tribute videos.
Yeah.
Stallone's video was just
that one, and you can tell it came from the heart.
It had to, because Carl had such a positive impact on everybody that he worked with. Arnold's message about Carl was amazing and heartfelt.
Yeah.
Everybody that Carl's worked with had a great thing to say about him, and Carl just had that lasting impression that, man, we lost a real good one. I mean, like I said, he had that positive impact that even though Gina Carano got fired, they did have good chemistry together in the scenes that they were in The Mandalorian, and it would have been great, to see what the character could have been if he had not passed away. Because, I like what they did with his character from the beginning of The Mandalorian all the way to the third season. It was character growth. And it's like, now you're at this position, like, man, what can they do with him now that he's got this position of power?
Yeah, I didn't watch any of the Disney Star Wars then.
Yeah, that's understandable.
But which is also
there's a lot of them in Hollywood.
Yeah,
a lot.
That even though it's Disney Star Wars, being part of like the mythos, not only that, being part of the broader mythos, like of course, Rocky, like 3 major franchises. That he, as long as humankind has a memory about pop culture, like he's a bright star in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he played a massive role in it, And
I think the only thing that I never really understood. I think that also I wrote him a question on Twitter, but he didn't answer that one. Was why we never got the Dylan figure in the NECA Predator line, because they made Apollo figures, but he never signed off his likeness to do a Dylan figure, which I truly wish would have come out.
It would have been awesome to have the Apollo and the Dylan figure.
Yeah,
Jackson figure for that too.
It would all be cool.
I mean, maybe we don't know the reasons for it, and unfortunate that we didn't get one. But Dylan will always be in our heart.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure he had his reasons for that. Maybe they gave him just always a lowball offer. They said like, nope.
But he'll always be Dylan, and we'll always have that legendary moment at the handshake, and his character progressing. Like I said, Predator is an awesome movie.
Yeah.
And
in the future we still have in the future we still have Carl Weathers movie to talk about.
Oh yeah. Like I said, the aforementioned Death Hunt, with Bronson and Lee Marvin, the film with Billy Dee, which is average, but it still has serviceable moments, and he was great in that.
And it's not the worst Billy Dee movie.
Yeah, it's not the worst.
Alien Intruder.
I still can't get over the fact that the cover duped us all.
Yeah.
It duped us. We thinking Billy Dee's in there. I was like, this might be good. It was home.
Yeah, and we almost forgot one franchise, one big franchise. One might say one of the biggest franchises that ever existed throughout video games and movies. He voiced Biggs in Mortal Kombat 10. Which also basically was a character it was very much inspired, of course, also by him. So that came full circle, and his one-liners in Mortal Kombat 10. I am not a huge fighting game guy. I totally suck at these games. I'm so bad at these games, but I just wanted to play as Biggs and kick the Predators.
Get revenge on the Predator.
Yeah, because the Predator was also the DLC character in it. So that one is like a very underrated one because his voice acting there is just phenomenal. And like I think there's online also a video with all of his one-liners from Mortal Kombat 10. Highly recommend watching it. Highly recommend it because those are kick-ass.
And we did the movie, the Comeback. He was in that as well as Coach Freddie Wiseman. That movie hilarious. And like there's still stuff to talk about with Carl Weathers that we'll talk about in the future. And he left a major impact on all of us, and everything that he did, whether it was good or bad, he still had such a positive impact on the film, and that's why no matter what, he'll always live forever in our hearts.
Exactly. As long as we're gonna do that show, we will always talk in very high regards about Carl Weathers, and I'm pretty sure, like, even we're gonna talk like all of his action movies for sure, and I'm also pretty sure we're gonna revisit some movies in the future again, especially the Devil Island, Shadow Island movies. I really want to revisit like in a full-time show. It also gives me always looking forward to another reason to watch those.
Like I said, I watched them back to back 2 weeks ago. If I wasn't such a sick dog back last week, I would have talked a bit more on those movies because I watched them again. But yeah, we'll definitely do a stream talking those films and the greatness of Carl Weathers and the woodenness of Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we did a good job here talking. This was short, sweet, and simple. We was able to honor a legend and Carl Weathers, and I'm happy we was able to still do this show.
Yeah, me too. This was a show that is very dear to both our hearts, and especially like the impact that he had on our lives as movie fans, and being on social media and seeing him interact with the fan base was very special, and it feels like a little bit like closure, as much closure as you can get from being a fan.
Yes, and I will say that this tribute special is a nice bonus for our Black History Month celebration.
Yeah, I still wish it would have been an episode many years in the future. But yeah, it's sometimes it still doesn't feel like real.
It doesn't feel real, but sometimes that's life. And on the quote that I use, "There is no tomorrow," that quote, like, people was posting it that day, and it was like,
yeah,
man, it's so true, because you never can predict what tomorrow can be.
Exactly.
So, sometimes when there's no tomorrow, you have to say, there is a tomorrow. But that's how life goes. And I'm looking forward to many more discussions on Carl Weathers in the future. But with that in mind, we're going to close this first video because we're going to have a little break, and then we'll be right back to do our second video of the day, Lola Cope on beautiful Lola Falana.
Yeah.
Spaghetti Western 1967. So we're going back to the 60s, and we're going to talk Lola Cope coming right up in a few minutes. So we're going to go ahead and end this stream. You will see us again
in a few minutes. Okay.
We'll see y'all then.
Thank you, and see you in a few minutes. Bye-bye.
Carl Weathers.